Back to another episode of Cooking with Violet Vixen. Today we're going to feed our sweet tooth and we're going to make one of everyone's favourites. When you walk into a bakery, you always see custard tarts sitting there, those yummy little custard tarts. Today we're making a big one. You can share it. So here's what we need. We're going to make a pastry. I think it's to there. Leave it sit for half an hour before we roll it out and make it properly. Then we're going to make a custard and we're going to cook it. So let's go. Okay, so our first step is going to be to weigh out 90 grams of butter. We do not need to melt it. However, because we're going to be putting it in the mixer, we do want it fairly small, otherwise we're going to be here all day. So when you weigh it out, weigh it onto a chopping board. We want 90 grams. 91's close enough. Good guess. Okay. So when I say cut it up pretty small, that is 91 grams. So just chop it in half, then half again, and then another half, and then just keep chopping it. The smaller it is, the quicker it will mix in, because this needs to, once we get this pastry done, we need it to sit for half an hour. So this is a good thing that you can do this one in the morning if you've got a bit more than, a couple of hours before you have to leave for work, because the best thing is, while the pastry's sitting there for half an hour, you can go and start and get yourself ready for work or do something else, whatever's going on. I'll be doing that and some more stuff. So alright, so if you have a sticky beak in, that is a good, it's not too big and it's not too small. Alright, we need, in with that, a quarter of a cup of caster sugar, and I haven't abandoned my apron, for those that are wondering. It needed to go in the wash and I haven't had time to see if it's dried, so I'm apron free today. There's probably going to be another 2 filmings in one day. What's going on? Depends. I have to have dinner tonight, but I'm visiting hospitals again as well, so it sort of takes its toll on doing everything. Alright, quarter a cup, in it goes. Alright, set that mixer on. We want this to be light and fluffy. And we're only having 1 egg in with this, the other 3 eggs are for the custard. So while this is going on, grab yourself a little cup that you can put your 1 egg into and just give it a whip in the cup. That way it's already mixed before it goes in. Now while that's all mixing away, get yourself a nice pie dish. Think about your traditional custard tart and how it's not too deep. This one's a little bit bigger than my recipe tells me. It suggested a 20 centimetre, but this one's actually perfect. So you want to grease this. So to grease it, I just grab some butter and use it with that. Today I'm actually going to use margarine, because margarine doesn't get used much in this household, so I don't want it going off. So just grab a tissue. We don't need to line it because baking paper it's just going to stick to, so we want a really good greasing so that when we go to take a slice out, we're not going to be wrecking it. Touch wood. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But that is a greased pie plate. Okay. Now our butter and sugar is starting to really mix together well, which is good. Ideally, if you can, especially when it's warmer, try and get your butter out of the fridge earlier. Then that way it will soften and it will cook a lot quicker. Not cook, speed up a lot quicker, sorry. Thinking about cooking. You can't cook butter any quicker than you already are. Give that a whip. Okay, that can go in. And we need 1 1/4 cups of plain flour, and we're going to sift that plain flour. So I like my jug which has 1 1/4 cups on it. Getting ahead a little bit, I need 2 cups for milk, so I'm going to use that jug for that. And I need to sift this flour, so I'm going to get the handy sieve out. So on 1 1/4 cups of flour, try not to wear it. Especially if you're doing this before you go to work without your apron on. Oh, perfect, 1 1/4 cups. That means I can fill up my flour jar at a later time. Okay. Sift that through. I'm just going to move the pie plate out of the way because I actually need room to to knead the dough before we put it in the fridge for half an hour. That is not mixing. I hate this mixer sometimes. Alright. Just going to quickly finish this off. There's no point in putting flour in if you've only done half the job. When buying a mixer, this one I didn't pay for, make sure that the beaters actually touch the bottom of the bowl, because otherwise you're going to end up like I've got to do. I know I have seen some of those really good ones where they do touch the bottom of the bowl. If they don't touch the bottom of the bowl, you're always going to end up with dead spots, where you basically just end up having to do what I had to do to move forward with your recipe. Otherwise, you are just never going to get it done. Okay, grab your spatula. I always try and get my handy pink one. Okay, now we're going to mix the flour in 2 batches. I'm sure people are aware of what that means. In goes 1 lot. Now this is going to make a nice sweet pastry because we've got the sugar in it. And chuck in the rest. Alright. Mix that in well. As I said, try not to wear the flour. Okay. Now, it says to knead it on the surface. Quite honestly, I think that you can just do this in the bowl. Get the surface dirty when you're ready to actually roll it out. Because we're really only kneading it just to bring it all together. We're rolling it to make it fit. So, all right, get in there, and you'll probably feel that this pastry is quite doughy at the moment, like very sticky. This is why we're refrigerating it as well, so that it won't be as sticky. The second you try and roll something that's this sticky, it's just, look, yeah, not fun. Nice, but not fun. Okay. Alright, is it starting to look like a ball of dough? If it is, you're at the right level. If it's still looking like breadcrumbs, keep going. But yeah, as I say, I can't be bothered putting this out on the bench just to make a mess that I'm going to walk away from for half an hour, or to clean up a mess, which I'm then going to turn around and make again. So, once we're finished here, and this goes in the fridge, we are going to need some flour, which is just as well because I have to fill up my flour dish anyway, and I can do that in the half an hour when I'm supposedly doing nothing. Alright, now look at that. If you can be doing it like this, this is at the perfect consistency. That is going to be a really nice custard tart. Every time you get tempted to buy one from the bakery, you're going to go, oh, I might just go home and make my own. Because you've got one that will actually serve. If you said 4, they'd be pretty big slices. But they're pretty nice. So let's just say it's going to serve 4 or 8. You can cut it into 6 if you want. Cutting a circle into 6 is not really as challenging as it sounds. We might actually have a pie cutting episode one day, or a cake cutting episode, because then that way I can show you variations on how to cut cake. We might do that if I do end up doing a cake for Christmas. Okay, that is perfect. Put that in some cling wrap and into the, I was going to say the microwave, into the fridge for half an hour. Set your timer, get your bench ready to go, and we're going to be back to make pastry, line the dish, and make some custard. In the meantime, I would be putting your oven on to... Good question. What temperature are we cooking it at? I'll get back to you on that one. See you soon. We're baking in a moderate oven. I'm going to Google moderate oven. I'm pretty sure it's 180, and I'll let you know when we come back to make custard. Google told me moderate is 180 to 190. We're going for 180, so get that oven on as well. We don't want any surprises for our little custard tart. Alright, see you soon. Okay, so we've got 5 minutes before the pastry's ready. Once the pastry's ready to come out of the fridge and we make it, we want this to go in the oven pretty quickly because it's going to cook for 15 minutes and then 25 minutes. So this is a pretty long and involved recipe, so don't cook it if you're in a hurry in the morning. You can do it in 2 steps, but it's probably better to do it in 1. Okay, so the reason why I've got 2 jugs is we're going to mix it in 1 jug and then we're going to strain it into the other one. So that's how we're going to strain it into the other one. So grab your not handy pink spatula because that's still in the sink. Grab your green one. into this we want 3 eggs, which are going to be lightly beaten. So I like to put them in the cup first of all. Make sure if you chuck them in, they're technically lightly beaten. Lightly beaten just means make sure that the yolk is punched or broken. You don't really have to punch your yolks, but you'll be amazed if you try and do it without actually hitting the yolk. Sometimes it just doesn't seem to want to break, and then you just don't have that good egg consistency. So I'm just going to whip them all together just to be on the safe side. We want 1 teaspoon of vanilla essence. Oh, I put the lid on it last, so I can only blame myself, but oh, ouch. 1 teaspoon, that's going to give us that lovely vanilla flavour. You want your 2 cups of milk. You can use any milk you want. I always use the low-fat milk, so that's why I've got that. And then we want that 2 tablespoons of extra caster sugar. Yes, I put the caster sugar away without realising. I need more. The nutmeg, in case you're wondering, what are you doing with the nutmeg? That's a surprise for later. Nutmeg's that little, that brown sprinkling that you see on top of it. So we want 2 tablespoons of caster sugar in with this as well. Okay, now give that a whip. Then we're going to strain it through that sieve. By the time we've done that, we should hear a buzzer. The buzzer means get your pastry out. So we're just straining it so we've got a smooth custard as well. No one likes a lumpy custard tart, do they? Alright, so if you can see what I'm doing here, that is exactly what I'm doing. I'm straining it through. So we're not going to have any lumps. Obviously, the finer the sieve, the longer this is going to take, but you get a better result. Right, so we can actually leave that to just drain through while we are getting our pastry ready. Perfect. Just move that to the back there. Okay, so what I did in the meantime was I wiped down my bench area here. I filled up my flour bin. It's not really a bin because it's not a big bin. Get your rolling pin ready. Okay, so pop some flour down on your work surface. You don't need a lot. If you use too much flour, you're going to get obviously a floury pastry base. Now, when we roll out the pastry base, we need enough to go up the sides as well. You're not just doing the base, you're doing the sides too. So, first thing to do is to just push it down. Okay. So it's a really nice consistency now because it's cold. That's why we chilled it. If it's sticking to your rolling pin, what you can do is put a bit of flour on your rolling pin as well. Keep rolling. Now, visualize in your mind how big your pastry dish is. Compare it with what you're looking at right now. If you're pretty smart with an eye for measuring, you'll think that's good. So, how do I put that in there, you ask? Roll it onto itself. This is why you need the flour on the bottom. Slide it in. Oh, you silly looking thing. Okay, I hate when it breaks. Now, you don't really want to be re-rolling with this, and you need it to be really firm because you've got to think we're putting a liquid into it. If it was a chunky pie filling, bit of a gap in it's fine, but if you've got a gap in it, you're going to end up with custard under it. Custard tarts do not have custard under them. Not my one anyway. So, as you can see, we've gone right around, which is really good. Grab a sharp knife, a small sharp knife. For some reason this one seems to be closer this time, and it's not my small one. See here, I'm just going to try and push it up a bit more. What you can do is if you've got a little bit that's not quite right, just push some onto it, because this pastry is so pliable. It's so good. Alright, now go right over the edge, and then anything that is over is going. It's getting the chop. Oh, that is so perfect. Look at that. I don't think you could ask for a better looking pie base than that. Get a fork. Don't stab it to death. We're going to make a pretty crimp around the outside. I must say, so far I'm very proud of myself. I haven't finished yet, but presentation wise, that is looking pretty good. Okay, get that strained custard and that bit. Say bye to it. We don't need it. I'll just get a whisk. Okay, that goes in to the case. Be very careful. Now we're going to bake this for 15 minutes. don't be tempted to overfill it as well. They do come up quite high. But any higher than that and you're asking for trouble. Into the oven 15 minutes. We're going to check back in and I'm going to show you what we're doing for the rest of the 25 minutes. Okay, so after 15 minutes, out of the oven, remember that little bit of information down the bottom that said 1/4 teaspoon nutmeg. Sprinkle that over the top. This needs to go back in for 25 minutes or until the custard is set. Now I've turned it down to 160 because I can see my pastry starting to burn. So if you want to turn it down, turn it down. You can always cook it for a bit longer. It's not set yet by any means, but I don't want to burn my pastry. So I'm just going to put that on for 15 minutes and we'll check on it. Alright. Oh, I've got spillage. Oh, alright. We'll be back in 15. See what it looks like. Okay, so it's still wobbly, but if I leave it any longer, this is going to burn. So I'm just going to leave it to hopefully set, and we'll check back later. Thanks for watching. Bye.